What to do if the child is sick all the time? Moms often come to me with this question. Although in my articles I try to address these questions and explain what needs to be done to strengthen immunity, what needs to be done for the child to be healthy, but apparently moms need some kind of comprehensive solution combined in one video to make a specific plan to help your child. What does it mean the child is constantly sick? Usually mom means those conditions when a child gets a cold, recovers, but a day or two passes and he gets sick again. Symptoms may include a runny nose, cough, sore throat, hoarseness, tonsillitis, and adenoiditis. The child does not get out of these conditions. And in order to move on to the theoretical part, I will remind you how our immune system works so that you understand why we will give exactly these recommendations and not some others. The immune system ensures the constant functioning of our body, including under the influence of environmental factors, viruses, and microbes. They enter our mucous membranes by the millions every day and attack our body. For this, we have a general immune system, which includes immune cells and antibodies. A child is born with the mother's antibodies, but by 9 to 12 months, these antibodies break down, and the child essentially becomes sterile. That is, only his local immunity is working. This is our border guard. This is our defense at the border with the environment. These are the mucous membranes of the respiratory system, the mucous membrane of the digestive tract, our skin. These natural barriers, they fight any viruses and bacteria that get on our mucous membranes in particular. But with the diversity of viruses and bacteria, there are those cunning microbes and evil viruses that can still get inside the body and cause various inflammatory conditions. But here, our general immune system comes into play, which subsequently forms antibodies that kill these viruses and microbes. And when a child's immune system is trained with age and there are many of these antibodies, then the child begins to be conditionally healthy and stops getting sick with frequent inflammatory conditions. But a fair question arises if we are born under roughly the same conditions. Why do some children get sick often while accumulating these antibodies? Other children get sick rarely. This is where problems usually arise. They are usually due to insufficient or impaired function of our local immunity at the border of our environments and what can weaken its work. This is the dryness of the mucous membrane, inflammatory processes of our mucous membrane, signs of chronic infection, signs of chronic inflammation, the influence of other organs and systems. This is the influence of reflux throwing from the stomach into the esophagus, the influence of insufficient function of the thyroid gland, the influence of inhaled air, various allergic reactions of the mucous membranes. All this disrupts the work of the local immune system, and this primary defense, it is absent. It's like taking away the border between hostile states. And of course, scouts, spies, saboteurs, and so on will constantly get there. The same thing happens in a child's body. That is, if you remove the local protection, then any virus gets inside the child's body and causes a cold. Therefore, our task with you is to manage those factors that affect the work of the local immunity so that the child becomes healthy.
In their videos.
In my videos, I usually give recommendations for some independent actions to solve this or that problem. But this situation, when a child is sick all the time, it requires a doctor's presence. And preferably start with an otolaryngologist, because without seeing what's happening inside the child, there's not enough understanding of which specific path to take and what needs to be done. You need to check the nose, definitely check the nasopharynx, check the condition of the adenoids, and if signs of chronic infection are found, you must definitely deal with them, sanitize them. If it's adenoids, we usually do either a cocoon or ultrasonic washing with the help of an UZOL device. If it's the glands of the adenoids, then we do a washing of the adenoid lacunae. We wash out the excess microbes from there to ignite the poetic process, and the negative influence on the work of the local immunity has gone. We also assess the condition of the mucous membrane as a whole. If, for example, we see some chronic inflammation of the nose, we definitely rule out an allergy to inhaled air. Further, after turning to an ear, nose and throat doctor, I definitely recommend you, even if there are no characteristic symptoms, to rule out allergic reactions to inhaled air, because the symptoms may not be obvious, but in reality the child reacts to the inhaled air. The immune system is malfunctioning. Including the work of the local immunity with microbes can also be disrupted, and chronic bacterial infection begins to set in, and the local immunity is not sufficiently good at dealing with the viruses that get onto the mucous membrane of the respiratory tract. That's why the child is constantly sick, because the local barrier and local protection, it doesn't work. If you have been examined by an allergist, confirmed an allergy, accordingly the allergist gives certain recommendations on nutrition, lifestyle, medication, therapy and so on. The next step I recommend is to turn to a gastroenterologist or a pediatrician who specializes in reflux disease in order to rule out reflux throw from the stomach into the esophagus. Every third child has these throws, but some of them lead to some problems, others do not. Therefore, if the child is often sick, exclude throws, definitely exclude hypofunction of the thyroid gland. This is a pediatrician who will prescribe you the tests, thyroid hormones, which at least need to be checked in order to assess the function of the thyroid gland. If it is reduced, then a consultation with an endocrinologist is definitely needed in order to deal with this situation and restore the function of the thyroid gland. I have told you the main recommendations. The only thing that can be added is that we usually also look at nasal and throat swabs. The bacterial flora usually has a secondary significance and does not require treatment with systemic antibiotics. Nevertheless, harmful microorganisms are encountered. How desirable is it to get rid of them? To prevent them from being in the upper respiratory tract, we either reduce their quantity by washing and using local preparations, or even in rare cases, we have to prescribe schemes of antibacterial therapy. I have told you the main directions of the investigation tactics. As a rule, this is the first round of the child's examination, and as a rule, we stop at it. Because we find this problem and we start dealing with it, we start treating the child and he becomes healthy, stops being sick. If this first round doesn't help, then we go further. We continue the examination together
with an immunologist
to understand how the immune system works as a whole and to identify its shortcomings. Therefore, if they are detected, a good immunologist is already working with the child who allows to get out of this situation and compensate for the shortcomings of the immune system. The system that exists so that the child becomes healthy. Also, for children who are frequently ill, certain social recommendations are of great importance. Because a child who goes to kindergarten, especially in the first year, is constantly catching an infection. If his local immunity doesn't work, he moves from one infection to another, because children pass viruses and bacteria to each other. And with the presence of this constant runny nose, constant inflammatory changes in the upper respiratory tract, that's when the fires of chronic infection, chronic inflammation, which further disrupt the work of the local immune system, start to ignite. That's why we try to cure the child at every exacerbation and bring him back to normal. But the inflammatory process, for example, in the throat of children 3, 4, 5 years old, it decreases very slowly. And there is data that this happens up to a month. Therefore, if a child has been sick for a week, 2 days, went to kindergarten and got sick again, then the inflammatory process in the adenoids does not have time to subside. and the next viral wave starts to activate it again, exacerbate it, and as a result, it leads to the development of a focus of chronic inflammation and a focus of chronic infection, which disrupts the work of the local immune system. That's why I recommend to mothers of constantly sick children to try to normalize every exacerbation. Considering that it can last up to a month, I recommend at least 2 weeks to stay at home, ideally a month. But it's a fair question. You won't stay home for a month after every runny nose, right? Just when mom comes, that is, the child as a rule has already been sick for half a year, and we remove him from the kindergarten for a month if possible. We prescribe certain recommendations, accompanying to quickly liquidate the foci of chronic infection. We examine him according to the scheme that I have already told you. And over this month, we bring the child to a healthy state, and then he goes to kindergarten, and either he practically does not get sick anymore, or even if he does get sick, it's 3 to 4 days and he recovers. That is, he no longer has pronounced reactions from the adenoids, from the mucous membranes, tonsils, and so on. That is, the child quickly copes with these problems because the local immunity works normally. I also really like a good work scheme when children are taken to the garden according to the following schedule. We go on Monday, Tuesday, we stay at home on Wednesday, we go on Thursday, Friday. Here's this one day on Wednesday. It allows the child to recover from the constant infection that he catches. His immune system and mucous membranes, let's say, adapt and regenerate, recover on this day, and children, as a rule, start getting sick half as often. So try it. If there's a chance to leave the child at home, usually 1 day a week, one of the parents, either dad or mom, can arrange their work moments and schedule 1 day in such a way that they can stay at home with their child on Wednesday. And usually this scheme brings excellent good results. If you have any questions, be sure to write them in the comments. If for some reason you are not yet subscribed to my channel, be sure to subscribe. Because in my videos I talk about how to properly treat colds, how to effectively treat ear, throat and nose diseases, how to boost immunity. Therefore, there will be a lot of interesting things ahead. Subscribe, I will be glad to each of you. I wish everyone a good day. Stay healthy for now.